Hello, everyone. Welcome to Good Film Hunting, a podcast about an average couple who are on the hunt for some good movies. In today's world, we are consuming more media than ever, perhaps more passively than ever. But we believe that by documenting and discussing the media we intake, how and what we intake will change for the better. It is important that we don't just become another consumer, but a participant, seeking to engage with the media we consume, so that we can see how our view of the world affects how we perceive it, and how it affects how we perceive the world. In this podcast, we are not only on the hunt for some good movies, but on the hunt for a good discussion. So, lean in, participate, and enjoy. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of our Good Film Hunting. James here, as always, and with me is my co-host. Introduce yourself.
Savannah, Scott.
If I don't say that, you won't introduce yourself.
It's
usually just a long, awkward pause.
I would be silent if you didn't.
I know. I should just do that sometime. We just sit there and you not introduce yourself and see how long we go before you realize, oh, I'm supposed to introduce myself.
It's true. I'm Savannah Scott, the co-host. I'm also married to the host.
I'm James, the host.
Ew.
That's how you're talking.
No,
yes,
that's not definitely how you're talking.
Hi, everybody.
The difference between the two of us is that I'm a woman and you're a man.
Okay. Well, it's good to have you all back. Don't like that. Quick note in advance, our volume might be a little more monotone than usual because I actually have a baby in a carrier right now. And I don't want to wake her up, and that'd be really sad. She's just right in front of me sleeping. And so we're just going to kind of, our energy might be a little not as, has it ever been really zesty? Not usually, but it might be even less so. So
Wow.
if you've been with us this long, which I don't know, someone could be, that one person could be.
It's true.
Then, don't let this turn off. Know that we care.
And we are very enthusiastic about this.
We are enthusiastic in our hearts. Just our vocal cords cannot share that enthusiasm right now. So, Savannah, what movie are we talking about?
We're talking about North by Northwest.
North by Northwest. Who is it directed by?
I know his name.
You know his name? You can say it. You know it.
Alfred Hitchcock.
You got it. This is your second Alfred Hitchcock movie, right?
The second one that I've watched all the way through.
Oh, that's right, because you watched part of one and then you didn't finish. So yes, we are going to be talking about North by Northwest. If you're listening for the first time, let me give a brief breakdown of our episode structure. I've got a list of facts about the movie that I'll go ahead and tell Savannah. We will share our general spoiler-free thoughts on the she will share our favorite moment of the movie. Then Savannah will give a 5-minute plot recap of the movie. She just rolled her eyes at me. That will be spoiler-filled. And then we'll go through our rating system with 4 categories I will rate on a scale of 1 to 5. We will come to the end, share our overall rating, see if we agree that it belongs on the Good Film Hunting list, if it gets the stamp of approval. And then we will move on to watch another movie some night.
There you go.
There you go. Same old, same old. So, Savannah, you ready for some facts about this?
Yes, I am ready.
Are you ready?
My favorite part.
Your favorite part? Just absolute favorite.
I do love hearing the facts.
The facts. All right. North by Northwest was released July 1st, 1959.
Wow.
Which makes this movie how old?
63.
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, no, because my grandma was born in 1949, and
Okay.
she's 73.
Oh, okay.
I think, or 74.
Okay.
So it would be 60.
One of those.
3 or 64.
Somewhere in that. I could just do the math really quick.
No, it'd be 63 because it's 2024.
Oh, okay.
Look at me.
Look at you.
So good at math. We'll double check that.
65.
What?
What?
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry. I've been doing reverse math lately.
Reverse math? Yeah. Is that like different math. What do they call that? New math?
New math, yes.
New math. So that makes this 65 years old. That's crazy. That's crazy that something this old, as far as film
It's crazy that
goes.
my grandma is going to be 75 this year.
I know, right? Phew. Wow. Once again, this was directed by Alfred Hitchcock, who is regarded as one of the most influential directors of all time. This film was distributed by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, or MGM, the lion logo. I'm sure you know that.
I got you.
You got me. It has a runtime of 136 minutes, a budget of $4.3 million, which I'm sure at the time was a lot more than, like, I'm sure 4.3 billion, sorry, not billion, million in 1959 was, like, way, way bigger than what it would be today.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, it doesn't look like a big budget, but I'm sure for them it's like, whoa, this is an expensive movie. 'Cause it's a big movie. It is a big movie. It had a box office of 9.8 million. It's not a super high return, but decent. I mean, I guess it was okay enough. I don't know what the standards were at the time. The score was by Bernard Herrmann, who has had several collaborations with Hitchcock. It has a lot of very extensive work in just older movies. This film stars Cary Grant as Roger Thornhill, Ava Marie Saint as Eve Kendall, James Mason as Philip Van Darn. No, just kidding, Van Damme.
Wow.
And Jessica Royce Landis as Clara Thornhill, Roger's mom. As far as development for this film goes, Hitchcock often told journalists that the idea he had for this film started with a premise of Cary Grant hiding from a villain inside of Abraham Lincoln's nose on Mount Rushmore, and he wanted to give the film a name, The Man in Lincoln's Nose.
Oh. And all of his friends were like, maybe not.
Maybe
You should
not.
pick a different name, like North by Northwest.
He even wanted to call it The Man Who Sneezed in Lincoln's Nose.
Wow. That sounds
would
like
have
something
been-
you would do.
Really.
Yeah.
Hitchcock sat on the idea for a long time. I think like almost 10 years, actually. And before finally writing the script, when he did write the script alongside someone else, the role was actually written to fit Jimmy Stewart more, because Jimmy Stewart and Hitchcock had had a lot of collaborations at that point. So it was just kind of assumed he would take the role. But Hitchcock essentially decided that he wanted Cary Grant to do it because that's what he'd always envisioned. But he didn't have the heart to tell Jimmy Stewart no. So he essentially delayed making the movie because Jimmy Stewart wanted to do this really badly after he'd heard the premise of it and was told that he'd get the role. And so Hitchcock just kind of waited and waited until eventually Jimmy Stewart signed on to another movie. And then Hitchcock decided to make it.
Wow.
And then the role was offered to him, but he had to turn it down because he was already part of another project.
That's like the ultimate people pleaser thing to do. That would be me. Oh my word, it's so dumb.
Wow. I wonder if Jimmy caught on to that. He's like, wait a second.
feel like-
That doesn't make any sense.
You said that a little too fast. Jimmy
sorry.
Stewart's a little slower than
No,
that.
he's very fast. What are you talking about? Another fun fact is that Ava was being interviewed for her role. Her mother told her that Hitchcock loved to cast women wearing beige clothing and white gloves. So Ava showed up in that, and she attributes that to her success in getting cast in the role.
Beige clothing and white gloves. Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. Hitchcock is known for having his blonde in all of his movies. He's always got to have one. I don't know what that is. It's a weird thing.
I know. I'm curious if blondes are still like as held in high esteem now as they used to be, because I don't really think they are.
I don't know.
I don't feel like
don't
blonde
know.
is like a very popular hair color right now.
Maybe not.
I don't know. I could be wrong.
beats me. As far as critical reception for this movie goes, which brings me to wonder, back in 1959, you know, we had a movie like this coming out, and you didn't have a lot of movies coming out. So, like, the standard for a good movie was just different than it is now, because this was considered, or at least was considered, one of the greatest movies of all time at its release. Like, if you look at, like, top 100 lists, this one is always in there, which is interesting, because we'll go into our thoughts later, but, like, it's just like, interesting that it, like, is in that list of greatest movies of all time. Yeah, it's listed as one of the best films of the... It was listed as probably the best film of the 1950s, one of the best of all time, listed as one of Hitchcock's greatest of all time. It was registered by the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. So it did get that award. It is, as far as awards go, it was nominated for just 3, just kidding. 3 awards. Best film editing, best art direction, and then best original screenplay. But I don't think it won any, unfortunately. So, how sad. As far as fun facts go, I already kind of told you one about Jimmy Stewart, which is funny.
It's more like a sad fact.
I know, right? Cary Grant, who did end up playing Thornhill, found the screenplay baffling, and midway through filming told Alfred Hitchcock, "It's a terrible script. We've already done a third of it, and I still can't make head or tail of it." And Hitchcock knew that the confusion would help the movie, after all, so he didn't bother trying to clear it up. And Cary Grant thought it was going to be a terrible movie until it got great critical reception upon its release.
That's weird.
Like, I can almost see that now in the performance.
I know, actually.
Now that you stop and think about it. This is considered to be the quote-unquote first James Bond film due to its similarities and splashingly colorful settings, secret agents, an elegant, daring, wisecracking leading man, and a sinister yet strangely charming villain. So, there was no James Bond films again before this, I guess. And the first one came out not too long after. So this was kind of the first of its, genre, the spy, big spy, world-traversing genre. So I can see, like, when it comes out, like, this is just, like, brand new. Like, whoa, this is so cool. As far as goofs go, during the diner scene at Mount Rushmore, there is a young extra boy in the background who, if you watch and know what to look for, apparently covers his ears before Eve shoots at a character. I won't say who. But obviously, you're not supposed to know that the shooting's happening, so him covering his ears kind of indicates maybe this is a few takes in and he was
funny.
Anticipating it.
That's funny.
That's funny.
That'd be me if I was on set.
Dead giveaway. Okay, so those are all the facts I had about this one. There was once again, there was a lot for this one. We watched those movies and they're well regarded, so there's gonna be a lot of facts, and gotta pick the good ones. So,
really fast, give me a refresher on what people's names are. Roger Thornhill,
Eve.
Is it
Kendall.
Eve? I kind of.
Yeah.
How is it?
Eve Kendall.
Eve Kendall.
Mm-hmm. Philip Van Damme, and then there was his mom. And those are the 3 characters, really. There was other characters, but we don't really know.
I was just trying to remember the lady's name.
Okay. So, Savannah, what are your general thoughts, spoiler-free thoughts on this movie?
I did not know anything about this movie.
Okay.
I'm not super familiar with Alfred Hitchcock and his works, but I went into this movie with an open mind, and I found it enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, I know, I liked it. I liked it, and I liked Rear Window also.
Yeah.
But I liked this one, and I thought it was fun. I thought it was engaging.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it maybe went on a little too long, but I thought it was interesting and very, it was a very spy movie.
Very spy movie.
It wasn't spy enough. Like, it didn't have a ton of gadgets.
Right.
But, like,
just like secret agent.
Yeah,
secret agent yeah.
stuff. It was fun. It was good.
It was good. You liked it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it too. I thought it was fun. This, as far as Hitchcock movies go, probably is lower on the list for me. Mm-hmm. Just because his other films were just, in my opinion, have been more interesting. Like Rear Window, it being a kind of like a single setting and like a mystery kind of thing, or Rope, or Birds, which I don't know. I thought that one was pretty silly, but like it's just such a weird and bizarre premise.
I forgot about that movie.
I know.
I don't think I'll ever watch it.
Probably not. Vertigo, I feel like I need to watch again because I just remember not knowing what I was getting into and watching that and being like, I don't know how I feel about this movie. But yeah, I thought it was fun. It was engaging, interesting. It was very charming because movies of this, of that day and age, older movies in general just tend to be a little more charming in a certain way. It was well made for the most part. I do think it doesn't have a very large rewatchability factor.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that.
Yeah, because it's a very straightforward plot. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of depth, not a lot of themes they're exploring, which Hitchcock openly admits to it just being a fun movie. And whenever critics would come to him about what are the deeper meaning and the themes behind it, he'd be like, there aren't any. It's just a fun movie.
There wasn't really a ton of drama and tension either, like relationship wise.
Right.
So I felt like it was kind
of... Not even relationship wise, just like... I mean, there was a little bit for the character himself in just certain situations, but just not enough for me to be like, to feel like it was particularly well executed, at least compared to what we have today. Like, if these people got to see, I don't know, any of the Mission Impossible movies and what they've done in their day and age, it would be very different.
I know.
Very different experience. Yeah, those are my general thoughts on it. It was fun. I enjoyed watching it, but I don't know if I would ever like sit down and watch it again, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think if you're craving a secret agent movie, this is not the most. Like, this won't satisfy your craving as well. This would be like, you really want chocolate cake, but instead you go to your pantry and eat some chocolate chips out of the bag. Like, it's still chocolate, it's still yummy, but like it's not the same as chocolate cake. Yeah.
And we can get into that in writing and why that could... Well, when we get into writing, talking more about that and rating, we can kind of go into that a bit more. Did you have a favorite moment of the movie? A moment that stood out as... I mean, for you, it's always a moment that makes you laugh.
Always. Let me think. Was there... I don't really remember there being a lot of, like, funny moments in this movie.
There were little subtle ones, whether it was through dialogue or a couple of gags here and there. It doesn't have to be funny if you found another moment.
I think my favorite part of the movie was the part where he was... am I allowed to spoil now?
Oh, are we moving into spoilers? Okay.
Yeah,
This is spoiler filled.
My favorite part of the movie was when the crop duster was trying to kill him.
Okay.
Because I thought it was the most compelling part of the movie.
Oh, really?
Like, I genuinely felt scared for him and nervous for him.
Okay.
So that was my favorite part.
Your favorite part?
Yeah, it was stressful.
Stressful?
Watch, yes.
I mean, for the time, that scene was regarded as, like, one of the most impressive scenes.
I mean, it was well done.
Yeah.
How scary is it to have a plane chasing you? Like, planes are not super... I mean, they're, not the most aerodynamic in, small spaces. But, like, if you're dropped in the middle of an empty field and all there is a crop duster and it's just going at you and you're like, you have literally nowhere to go.
Right.
I think that's pretty compelling. And then, I just thought It was good. It was fun. It was kind of inconclusive, though, because we never really found out who was piloting it and also what happened to the pilot when he crashed into the gas
Well, he
truck.
died. They said he died.
Okay.
I don't think they were really we just know that they were working for the villain.
Yeah.
That's all we really know. Yeah, that was a fun scene. I think my favorite moment, it was just a fleeting moment, was when Roger was trying to escape through the hospital and then he jumps in the random hospital room, which has the lady in it, and she exclaims, like, "Oh!" And then she stops and goes, "Oh," or something. I don't remember.
That's weird.
And I was like, wow, apparently this guy and his gray matted hair is really attractive to everyone.
I know. I thought that was weird that he was like supposed to be super attractive. But again, different times.
Different times.
Different standards of male beauty.
I know, right? He's got a very, what do you call it? Distinctive cleft chin. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just like, you don't see that too often.
Yeah, I feel like you don't see that very often.
Mm-hmm.
That's like kind of like Buzz Lightyear chin.
Is it?
Yes.
That's funny. Okay, so Savannah, you ready to recap the plot in 5 minutes? Hope your brain is ready, because there's a lot to cover in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Hold on. Gotta get the timer. Ding. I'll just watch the clock. Okay.
Okay.
Ready, set. Oh, the baby. I apologize if you hear a lot of. That's the baby.
That's not you, are you
It's
sure?
not me. Okay, ready, set.
So we meet Roger Thornhill, and he is busily talking to his secretary because he works for I don't remember exactly what he worked for.
Oh, something like an advertising.
Yeah, advertising or something like that. And so he's talking to his secretary. And so he waylays a taxi, or steals a taxi, basically, from someone who's already trying to get into it. He pretends his secretary is sick, and then he gets in the taxi. And so right off the bat, we kind of realize he's kind of a jerk. Jerk vibes. But anyway, he ends up driving to a hotel for lunch with some people that he knows, like friends or whatever. And he goes in and sits down, and then he has to leave for a second because he forgot something. He forgot to send a message to his mom. And as he leaves the room, we see a guy or two guys that are kind of scoping him out, and they pull a gun on him and escort him out of the building and into another car. And he is very flustered, obviously. And he's like, "What's going on?" And they're referring to him as a name that he doesn't recognize.
What is it? Not something K. Kaplan.
Okay, yeah. So they're referring to him as Mr. Kaplan. And he's very confused. And he's like, "That's not who I am," blah, blah, blah. And so they drive, and they take him out to the middle of nowhere to this mansion. And he gets taken out, goes inside, and then he meets Mr.
We don't know that his real name yet. He has got like a different name. He's going under a different name.
It's like Campbell or something, some fake name. But anyway, or he gets brought into a room. He's like, "What's going on?" The henchmen are there, and then he meets the villain of the story, whose real name is what?
Lester Townsend is who Van Damme is pretending to be.
Okay, yeah. So he's pretending to be Mr. Townsend, but we're just gonna call him Mr. Van Damme, Van Damme. And he's like asking him a bunch of questions, and he's like, "If we get your cooperation, we won't do anything to hurt you." And Roger is extremely confused because they're calling him Kaplan, and he has no idea what's going on. And so, of course, he's like refusing. He's like, "No, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what you're talking about. I want to leave. Stop kidnapping me, blah, blah, blah." And so they're like, "Okay, we'll let you go." But they force him, and I don't know really how they accomplished this, but they forced him to drink an entire bottle of whiskey or something, or was it rum?
Bourbon.
I don't know. Oh, bourbon. Yeah, an entire bottle of bourbon. I don't know. Again, I don't know how in the world they got him to do that. But they did. They got him to drink an entire bottle of bourbon, and they put him in a car and basically sent him down a hill so he could drunkenly drive himself off the cliff. And he ends up kind of pulling it together enough to drive down the hill, and they're chasing him, and he's drunk driving very severely. Almost takes out a couple people. And then he eventually gets pulled over by the cops, and they take him in, and the bad guys end up vanishing, and he's telling them that he...
You've got 2 minutes left to wrap this entire plot up.
Okay, he told them that he was kidnapped, and that they made him drink bourbon and whatnot, and they're like, we don't believe you. And he said, take me to this place. And so they went back to the house that they kidnapped him to. And everyone in the house is like acting like he was there that night. And he was just partying and he was drunk. And if the justice system back then wasn't very good, apparently. Because the cops were like, oh, whatever, it's your word against theirs. And so, anyway, he goes and he gets bailed. But then he's very drawn into this whole situation. And so he does a lot of investigating of Mr. Kaplan, the person that he supposedly is, and he just kind of goes down this rabbit trail.
Right.
And during this, he meets a woman in a train as he's running from the cops.
Oh, right, for a framed murder.
For a framed murder, and he meets a woman in a train, and they engage in activities, and...
You could say that.
And so they kind of have this like understanding now, but she ends up kind of turning on him and giving him the wrong directions to a certain place, and that's where he ends up with the crop duster, trying to kill him. And he ends up escaping and stealing a car and going back to the city. So now he's wanted for murder and car stealing.
Oh my goodness, what a terrible combo.
I know, and so it's just basically him trying to figure out what's going on, and eventually it all comes to a head when he ends up finding out that the girl is part of the Secret Service or something, and the person, Kaplan, is like this made-up character that the Secret Service made up to catch Mr. Van Damme.
Right.
And so he kind of plays along. He fakes his death, and then he finds out that the lady who he's grown to like is going away with Philip Van Damme because they are in a relationship, and she's spying on him, but he doesn't know that. And so the main character goes to rescue her, and they end up getting into some altercations with the bad guys, and then the woman and the main character end up escaping onto the top of Mount Rushmore, and there is some falling off of Mount Rushmore, some drama, and...
no hiding in Lincoln's nose.
Yes. And as the woman slips and is about to fall, and the movie ends by the main character being like, grab my hand, Mrs. Thornhill. And then it cuts to them jumping into a bed in the train together, and they're married, I guess. So, and they all live happily ever after.
All live happily ever after. Wow. This gave me extreme Mission Impossible 2 vibes. Like, very similar plot, except our protagonist in Mission Impossible 2, he knows what he's doing. But, like, the whole, like, I'm in a relationship with a guy, but you're going to use me to spy on them, but we have a relationship, and blah, blah, blah. Except, we never see this woman in any of the other movies. Because Tom Cruise, I guess...
He's a player.
He has to have a different woman every movie.
I know. No, he keeps the same one in, like, a couple of the last ones.
It's true. Yeah. Kind of, sort of. Yep, that's the gist of the plot. So, let's move into our rating system. We've got 4 categories that we'll rate this movie on a scale of 1 to 5 for. 1 to 5, not to be confusing, which includes entertainment, production quality, writing, as well as content. Savannah, on a scale of 1 to 5, how entertaining did you find this movie, and why?
I would give this movie a 4.
Okay.
I felt like it was sufficiently riveting. It kept me interested. It was definitely like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen next.
Right.
I thought the main character was likable. I
a little
thought
curmudgeon-y.
He was a little curmudgeon-y, but I thought he was likable. And I thought it was a somewhat confusing plot, and I feel like there were a couple of plot holes here and there, but like I thought in general it was entertaining.
Okay.
And it was like, ooh, intriguing. What's going on?
Intriguing. What will happen next?
And I think it definitely surprised me a couple times, which I thought was good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What surprised you?
Well, just like the woman being, part of the Secret Service, and
Oh, okay.
the woman Eve.
So did you expect her just to be a bad character?
Yeah, I thought she was just like a bad character.
Okay.
And what else caught me by surprise? I feel like a couple of things I can't remember fully, but like the way certain things unfolded.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd give it a 4. I thought it was entertaining.
Okay. I agree. I do give this a 4 as well. Biggest reason being it's a bit too long. Mm-hmm. It starts to drag. I feel like that third act really starts to drag. After the auction scene, it just kind of became less interesting, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because the auction scene was really funny. That actually might, now that I think about it, that might be my favorite moment. I forgot about it. Oh, this baby is very wiggly. But yeah, it lost me in the third act, especially when it became more about the love story rather than the main protagonist. Just because it was a so-so love story.
It was.
This is a trope of these kind of movies, but like, it doesn't mean like. I mean, I guess they could be well done, but this one was an okay one.
Yeah, I felt like the love story. I still appreciated that aspect of the movie, but it was kind of forced. They literally met on a train and slept together. Right. And then they had like that sort of bond, which is kind of a weird bond.
Which is always like, yeah.
It's a weird bond. It's kind of a volatile bond because you're kind of just held together by your attraction, and there's a lot of room for misunderstanding and drama.
And those scenes, in my opinion, were just really awkward. The scenes when they were in the train room and, they were being romantic and kissing. It was just like super... Not that I'm like a critic of, making love scenes, but like, it was just so awkward to watch, and like, they're just so rigid, and this, yeah.
I didn't feel like they had great chemistry.
No, not really. Being an older movie, it's just fun to watch because of that, because it's kind of fun to see, something of a different era, and there's, like I said, there's just a certain charm that older movies have, but that just does mean it kind of comes with a lot of limitations in what they can do. I thought the movie did have some awkward blocking, especially after the crop duster scene. Like the fact that all these 4 people out of nowhere come out of cars that just happen to show up, and like they all just kind of stand there with their hands on their hips and then all together in unison walk towards this truck that's on fire. It's like, wow, that was not well done at all, actually. That was really bad.
I definitely agree. I felt like that was awkward.
And just the general suspense scenes, for the most part, would be done better today with today's tools that we have that they didn't have then. The crop duster scene was, it was fun, but like watching it still, there's like, you can definitely tell the tricks they're using in some ways because we've gotten better at it. Mm-hmm. But not that I'm not throwing shade on it. It's just because it's that like it just doesn't. It loses a little element of the suspense for me. Mm-hmm. So for production quality, on a scale of 1 to 5, what would you give this? Which includes cinematography, acting, casting, editing, costumes. I
thought the acting was pretty good, all things considered. I thought his mom was not a good actress.
Oh yeah, I noted that down too. I did not enjoy her.
Really, yeah, I felt like she did nothing. She didn't add anything. She was just
annoying.
Yeah, so not her. Didn't like her. I thought the acting in general was pretty good though.
Don't you just love how in these older movies, the actors just talk and they have so much dialogue and good dialogue, and they just have whole scenes where they talk at length and it's not cut. It's like we don't do that anymore for movies, and when we do, it stands out because it's just so cool. Yeah, impressive when we do it.
No, it's true. There were a lot of good scenes like that in this movie. I thought that the costumes were good.
The costumes.
I was really annoyed though that he wore the same thing the entire movie.
Oh, you don't like that? You want him to change that?
I want to talk about that in writing a little bit.
Oh, okay. Didn't like his sunglasses.
Yes. But yeah, I thought all in all it was pretty decent for production quality. It was an old movie, but it was, not bad.
What about their hair? Or the guy's hair, the lead?
His hair was weird. I don't really know what was going on there. I'm just attributing it to some hair product that they probably used.
The really glossy gray hair.
It was very glossy, very uniform shade of dark gray.
Right.
And just weird. It kind of almost looked powdery too. It was kind of
yeah.
But anyway, I would give that a 4.2. I thought for the era and everything.
Yeah. I think I have a 4 as well. I agree. It was pretty good. It was just a very large movie. Traversing the globe. Just those kind of tropes for a spy film.
Like Cars 2.
Right. Very suave. I love the real life locations, the real props. The score was really fun. I thought it had like a very upbeat, noticeable theme that kept coming back, and I always love it when a movie has that. The acting I thought was pretty good, but I do agree Roger's mother's performance was just by far the weakest one and just kind of annoying, to be honest. And you did make the point that all of the men in this movie looked identical for the most part. I don't know what that is. It's just like a casting thing. Like they're all cut exactly the same and have the same faces.
Same skin tone.
Yeah.
And who knows how much of that has to do with just the fact that like they did their makeup all the same.
Right.
But yeah, they definitely all looked very similar.
I just thought that was kind of odd. Like, especially that scene when the villain and Thornhill are in the same room for the first time.
I legitimately thought
like, is this supposed to be like a double? Like, because my brain was having a hard time grasping what I was seeing. And eventually, like, I could set them apart very clearly. But it was just kind of weird to see the first time. Mm-hmm. Especially because I didn't know what was happening. I thought it was production quality was pretty good. But yeah, nothing about it really stood out to me as being super profound, I guess, which kind of goes into the suspense factor for entertainment as well. It's just being an old movie, like that's not shade to be thrown on it, but it almost becomes more of like, oh, this is interesting, rather than this is really engaging, because you can kind of watch it how they did it then. It just becomes a little more of a picking it apart for me. I know maybe that's not the case for you.
Yeah, I mean, I pick things apart a lot more than I used to because of you. But like, I don't.
Yeah, but like the whole Mount Rushmore scene, like it wasn't suspenseful.
No.
Because it was just everything was so wide and big, and like they just didn't know how to manipulate what you were seeing.
Yeah, because like there would be a scene where like, you have these people right here, the two main characters, and then you could like see both of the bad guys like coming towards them. Mm-hmm. And like I don't know if that's intentional or not.
Which that could be intentional. It's just like, especially if they don't know what's happening and you're kind of just waiting for them to meet, maybe if done right. But I just felt like they didn't really do that very well. It was just them kind of falling on rocks and being, oh no, my knee, kind of thing. On a scale of 1 to 5, what would you give this for writing, which includes the plot, character arcs, dialogue?
What did I say I was going to comment on?
Something about the costume, same outfit.
Oh yeah, okay. Time. So I will say something probably my biggest pet peeve about this whole movie was the fact that Roger Thornhill was supposedly wanted for literally stabbing someone to death. Right. And yet there were some scenes which he was framed for. He didn't do this, but there were some scenes where like everyone was recognizing him because they had like newspaper clippings, and then there were other scenes where he just waltzed around in public in like
the news hadn't gotten to them yet. He was far away.
Yeah, I don't know. He didn't make any effort to conceal his identity. He wore sunglasses once, and then he dressed up as a porter at the train station, and
I thought the sunglasses was funny because to me it just kind of gave a sense of cluelessness. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do about this.
I know, but I just thought that was. I think that was a plot hole, not a plot hole. It was a plot hole, not just a choice, but like it was a genuine plot hole.
Okay.
And that bothered me.
Okay.
I thought that. Again, he and Eve didn't have a ton of chemistry.
Right.
She, as a person, was kind of shallow. We didn't really get to know much about her.
Right.
Her identity was that she slept with people.
Right.
Which is a fine identity to have, I guess. But, like, there wasn't really a character arc.
Right.
She didn't really grow out of that. She kind of just always was like that. So, yeah, I would probably give... Well, and also, it was just a little confusing the way everything was orchestrated.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like there were some rabbit holes that we could have gone down, but we just didn't. And so it was kind of confusing. Especially the whole situation of him not knowing who, like, was, you know, he was, like, what they were calling him. And, like, we didn't really have any reason to understand the connection between Mr. Van Dam and... what was his Kaplan? Like we didn't have any reason to believe like anything about them.
So like the fact that it just kind of threw you into the middle of it without, so you felt like you needed backstory.
I felt like I needed maybe even like a monologue about like what Kaplan is doing supposedly or what they're even doing because we don't really. I mean, we kind of know, but don't super know, like, what the bad guy's even doing.
Right.
That's so bad. We just know that it involves the Secret Service or something.
I mean, to me, I thought that was fine because, one, the main protagonist has no idea. He's being thrown into this. He's like, what's going on? So we as an audience are kind of in his shoes, like, we don't really know. We could get a monologue about that later, but... I feel like it wasn't completely for me. It wasn't completely necessary to have all that information filled out because, well, the movie was supposed to be about the relationship at the end rather than like saving the world, but like I wasn't into it. But I know these kinds of movies do kind of play with that a lot, like the whole idea. And I remember Mission Impossible 3, The Rabbit's Foot. Where it was like the MacGuffin of the story, like we gotta get this thing from the bad guy, and the bad guy wants it, and it was going back and forth. But we never knew what it was. We just knew it was important, and that was it. So I didn't mind that there were missing gaps because I just felt that it fit our protagonist and just kind of throwing him in the middle of the story and adding to his confusion, but I can understand wanting more of that information.
Yeah, and it didn't ruin the movie for me at all. So I wouldn't like say that took away points. The biggest thing that took away points was definitely him being wanted, but not being wanted at the same time. Like that was annoying.
You just needed more consistency there.
So I would give the writing a 4 also.
A 4 also?
Yeah.
4 also. Well, guess what? I will give it a 4 also as well.
Wow.
I thought it was good. Definitely not perfect. It follows the typical plot of the secret agent and, you know, the femme fatale character wooing them and being like, oh, you double-crossed me. Surprise! Wow, classic.
These kind of movies portray men as so easy to manipulate.
Listen, these men are on the run. They're alone. Everybody hates them, is trying to kill them. They meet a friendly woman who's probably good looking, and they're just like, oh, hi. Let me lie low with you for a little bit. And then, surprise!
Let me literally lie low with you for a little bit.
Wow, that was edgy.
Well, I don't know.
You know, and then surprise, they turn out to be evil, and they don't know that. They just think it's a regular bystander. But they're not. They're not. They're working for the bad guy. Tisk tisk. But yeah, I do feel that the integration of the femme fatale character was definitely wonky. And they gave it way too much screen time and not enough relationship building. Despite the fact that they spent so much time with them together talking. Like, it was just them kind of being risque and kind of exchanging like, ooh, how about this kind of like, innuendo? What about this innuendo?
Yeah, there was no relationship between them. Like, no loyalty was formed. Like, it was literally the bond of having slept with someone.
Right. And yeah, it didn't build that very well.
Which is a very tenuous and shaky bond.
The ending was definitely rushed and kind of unsatisfying. Because
I literally laughed when it ended.
I know, because it ended so fast. It was them running away from the bad, which kind of goes to my point earlier about not having all the context. We don't know what happens to the bad guy because we're supposed to care about this relationship more. So they're supposed to be this story. Whatever happens to him is whatever. But because I wasn't invested in this relationship and I was more invested in what was going on with the villain, the fact that, these characters are hanging from Mount Rushmore and they could die. And then suddenly someone miraculously shows up and shoots one of the henchmen. He's like, come on, I'll save you, says Mr. Thornhill to future Mrs. Thornhill. And then it match cuts to them in bed together and then it ends. And what the hey was that?
I know, because the bad guy fell off the cliff.
Right.
And then, the other guy, one of the henchmen fell off the cliff. Didn't all of them fall off the cliff?
Well, one of them shot, remember? Because the secret agent, whoever was, leading that shows up last minute. But, they just come out of nowhere. And, we never got an indication they were coming. It was just really weird. That's what we call an ex machina.
Yeah, that was just it was a very abrupt ending.
And it just was what the, okay, all right, moving on. So yeah, that just kind of that was just a shot to the foot at the end of this movie, oh, okay, all right, moving on. But yeah, I did kind of agree with your point about no one catching Thornhill and his sunglasses was weird, but I did like the sunglasses thing because it just kind of portrayed him as I'm not a secret agent. I guess I'll put some sunglasses on and try not to be caught for supposedly murdering this man.
I know.
It fit his character very well.
It did.
I didn't like how Thornhill had ex-wives. That was an example of him giving a monologue about filling in his character, which no one else in this story did, except for him in that one instance. Kind of being blah, 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 I had 2 ex-wives. That just ruined it for me. Because I didn't want to know anything about where he'd come from. I was happy not knowing and, making that up for myself.
Yeah.
And the fact that he had 2 ex-wives just soured everything.
It did, kind of.
And he's like, well, why'd they leave you? Oh, they thought I lived too boring of a life. Oh, jeez. Now you're living an exciting life. Are you going to be doing this for the rest of your life?
What are the odds that 2 women would be bored of someone?
I know. If he's kind of a jerk character, I'm not.
No, he wasn't really the most likable person.
Right. I didn't need to know. I didn't want to know that. It was just unnecessary information they put in there, which just kind of ruined it for me. But yes, I think that's all the points I had. I did, now knowing the fact that he was clueless about the script, Cary Grant, and knowing the acting in the movies, I can see that. I can see that in his eyes. He doesn't know what's going on.
I thought that was funny.
All right, so moving on to our last category, content, where we weigh the more negative elements or aspects in the story against the just overall story and the positive elements. Savannah, what would you give this on a scale of 1 to 5 for content?
I would probably give it a 4 also. I would say the worst part is the, somewhat sexual tension between Roger and Eve.
Right, especially when they first meet.
Yeah. But there's nothing really that scandalous. They're kissing, but a lot of innuendos, but they're not even that inappropriate of innuendos either. I would say those scenes are more silly than anything else.
My baby's waking up.
Yeah, I'd probably give it a 4 also.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just language, not really any language.
Not really. Yeah, there just really wasn't a whole lot. And
I don't feel like it deserved the PG-13 rating.
Really?
Yeah.
PG-13 was more... Well, PG-13 didn't exist then, so...
Wasn't it rated PG-13, though?
I don't know. I mean, that might be a modern thing they put on it. Maybe it wasn't rated originally. Yeah, I give it a 4 just because there was a lot of there were a lot of innuendos in that one scene. But other than that, like, there was some peril. The whole crop duster scene, was kind of tense. Mm-hmm. That fit the story, though, so it doesn't lose points for that. It's just all the risque dialogue and the fact that the relationship was built on this, just, I guess, sexual tension. Just, like, that's not a good message.
No.
And that's not realistic. And it wasn't necessary for the story, in my opinion. So, it loses points for that.
That's true.
Okay, so that brings us to our final conclusion, our final rating. Savannah, you have all 4s. I have all 4s. Do we agree that this movie gets just a 4 overall, or would you give it a different rating?
I feel like I'd give it a 4 overall.
Okay.
I thought it was a decent movie. I thought it was nothing particularly special, but I enjoyed it.
Okay. Would you recommend it to people?
I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I wouldn't be like, you should watch this movie. It was really interesting. Because there was nothing particularly thought-provoking about it. There's nothing particularly emotional or moving.
Right.
It wasn't like, wow, this is... Like The Prestige, for example. Like, that's a movie that I would totally recommend solely because of the mind-bendingness of it. And, like, how... But, like, this one didn't have anything like that. So, yeah, I would probably not recommend it.
Okay. I give this a 3.5. I thought it was a fun movie, but once again, not very rewatchable because like there just wasn't any element about it that was good enough for me to spend that amount of time watching this again. It was pure entertainment. It wasn't a theme-rich movie. And the spectacle of it is definitely somewhat outdated, which is sad to say.
That is true.
Because we've had better done versions of this story at this point, and it's not this movie's fault. It's just, it is what it is. And it's if someone likes older movies, then definitely by all means watch this. It's not bad, but I definitely would recommend, most of the Mission Impossible movies over this, just because they're a lot more fun, except Mission Impossible 2, which is probably one of my least favorite movies in the world.
Wow.
Just saying.
That's some not high praise.
No. I would definitely recommend Rear Window over this one, because that one, I was thinking about this as far as suspense goes. There's that one scene where the two women go to try and unbury a secret. I'm trying to keep it spoiler free, right? And then this woman, the love interest of our main character, Jimmy Stewart, decides to break into this person's house to get more information, and this guy's out, and this guy he's kind of, he's a little shady. And you feel the tension there.
I know.
And when things start to go wrong, you feel that tension. It is a very wide shot of you just watching everything and not being close. And that's an example of when it works really well.
Yeah.
Like, that's well done tension. This movie never came close to that.
Yeah. No, I would say the crop duster scene was the closest it came to that, but it still wasn't like...
Yeah, because then you actually cared about the characters, even though they were kind of shady. I felt their relationship was a little more believable, even if it was a little if it wasn't perfect. Like, I believe they were in a relationship because of the way they interacted with each other. They had good chemistry. Even
I don't
if
think
it was
he deserved
weird.
her, though.
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. Jimmy Stewart never deserves the women he ends up with, which is so sad. Poor Jimmy.
It's a Wonderful Life. Didn't deserve
He
Mary.
didn't deserve her at all, no.
No, she was great.
Does this get our stamp of approval? Let me think. Well, I wrote down a couple categories, so we both have to be in agreement. It has to be profoundly impactful. It doesn't really meet that category. Enjoyable. It was enjoyable. Would easily recommend it to others. And it can't have a content rating of 1, which we're fine there. I I'm going to say, personally, I'm going to say no, because it isn't a rewatchable movie.
Yeah, I would say if it was rewatchable or if it was even a tiny bit like more funny or something, I would add it to the list, but it's just kind of...
Yeah. I just wouldn't necessarily consider this like a movie that my family would grow up considering a classic.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's unfortunate. It is what it is. But we don't regret watching it. We had a fun time.
And we would probably give Rear Window the stamp of approval.
I think so, yeah. I would, because that one's more rewatchable, and even when you were watching it, after I watched it, I was kind of like standing by, like peeking around the corner.
Yeah.
Oh, this is that scene.
Yeah, it's definitely, like, this one may not make the list, but there is a Hitchcock movie on the list. At least one.
That's true. All right. Well, thank you all for, this baby. I apologize for all the weird grunts. I mean, they're baby grunts. Do I have to apologize for that? No, I don't. Nobody is sad to hear a baby grunt.
If she was screaming her head off, maybe we could apologize.
Maybe I could apologize.
She's just making cute sounds.
It's true. But yes, thank you all for listening. We hope you've been inspired to have some more conversations around the movies you're watching. Let us know what you thought about this movie in the comments. Let us know what you thought about our rating. And until next time, good film hunting.